Ever since the inception of the game, the golf swing has been perceived to operate along the guideline of one central pivot and axis. This belief is fundamental to other beliefs currently held sacred in the swing. Keep your head steady and keep your eye on the ball are merely illustrative of the unquestioned axiomatic truth we attribute to the central axis theory. The bi-axis golf swing represents a change worthy of serious consideration. It draws attention to the observation that the full action power swing in golf, as well as that exhibited in all other swing sports, derives from the reciprocal interaction of two power axes which reside dormant within the anatomy of every human frame. In this connection, research proves convincingly that every human being is naturally geared with all the physical equipment necessary to perform the golf swing successfully and on a consistent basis. Traditional ideas regarding age, sex, or current level of handicap have little to do with our natural potential to learn and improve dramatically. It is correct use of the body and the potential it contains that can lead to success in golf with each and every swing we make. The bi-axis model of the swing draws special attention to this reality. The fundamental structure of the golf swing, reduced to its essence, consists of 4 power levers, 3 power pivots, 2 power axes, and 1 pivotal shift. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dominic Esposito. I am not a golf pro. I am a researcher who specializes in the area of human power dynamics. Human power dynamics refers to the process through which the body generates and releases power. And today we will be discussing a special type of power that we are all capable of producing and that we need in a game like golf. The human body may be viewed as a power system, and this system is capable of producing 2 types of physical force. The first type of force is relatively easy to see and understand. It might be described as the bulk force of the body, in which case we rely on the size, the strength, and the weight of our muscles, and we employ ourselves for the purpose of pushing, pulling, and lifting things. Bulk force is very important to man. In fact, it is instinctive to our behavior. However, when we apply bulk force primarily in a swing sport like golf, bulk force comes up short and in most cases proves to fail. Golf and all other swing sports requires the second type of physical force that we're capable of producing, and this force is known as ballistic force. Ballistic force refers to the internal structure and process through which the body generates and then converts. We actually convert into the dynamic action of a natural whip. It is the whip force of the body that is essential to golf, and today we're going to learn a great deal about it. When we think about the golf swing and the people who've played golf, we often wonder, where does the power come from? We can see a person slim in stature walk over to his golf bag, pull out a club, step up to the first tee, make what appears to be a very simple swing, and crush the ball into the atmosphere 250 yards or more without even blinking an eye. This idea, or I should say the reality of this type of power, has been a puzzle for us in golf for many, many years. And as human beings will often be, we try to understand things. And what we did in golf is borrow a theory that has been in the annals of mankind for thousands of years. The theory is known as the central axis theory. This idea presumes that the spinal column, extended logically, becomes the central axis of the body. And what the golfer is actually doing is rotating and rotating on the central axis of the body. Consistent with this basic idea are a series of ideas. For example, keep the head steady, keep your eye on the ball. All of these ideas and numerous others derive from the basic belief in the central axis of the swing. And now what I'd like to do is examine the basic structure of the central axis theory and see whether or not the spine can in fact serve as an axis to support the complete backswing and the complete forward swing in golf. For this purpose, we observe that the spine is divided into three main sections. We have cervical vertebrae, inclusive of the head and neck. We have thoracic vertebrae, which control this upper region of the body known as the shoulder girdle, which we shall discuss a little bit more in detail as we proceed. And we have lumbar vertebrae, the lower region of the spine. Now, with respect to the cervical vertebrae, it is geared with enormous rotary capacity. For example, we can move our heads back and forth approximately 90 degrees in either direction without any problem whatsoever. Now we move into the thoracic region of the spine, which basically controls the shoulder line of the golf swing. In fact, if we keep our hips in position and simply rotate this shoulder girdle, we can find out that I can turn approximately 30 degrees in basically either direction. Men, on average, rotate about 30 degrees without any difficulty whatsoever. Some men can rotate a bit more, but on average, 30 degrees seems to be about correct. Ladies, of course, can rotate considerably more. Most ladies I've worked with over the past 5 years are able to rotate this shoulder girdle up to 45 degrees, which is an interesting difference between men and women. And perhaps later on we'll discuss some of the implications of this difference with regard to power in golf. Finally, we come to the lumbar region of the spine. And you will notice that if I hold my hips in position, I really can't rotate at all on the lumbar region. In fact, no one can. Ladies and gentlemen, the central axis theory meets extinction the moment we enter the lumbar region of the spine. And any idea or any attempt to rotate on center will stop because the lumbar is not geared with the rotary capacity necessary for the central axis theory to exist. The question is, when we see a golfer over the ball and we know the first 30 degrees is coming out of the thoracic, what explains this event that we are all familiar with, where the shoulders simply rotate freely to approximately 90 degrees? Where in the body is the anatomical capacity to support the other 60 degrees that we witness in a 90-degree rotation of the backswing? At this time, let me ask a question that's very, very elementary, but it took me 24 years to come up with the answer. Perhaps you can come up with the answer faster than I did. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know where the ball and socket joints are located in your hips? The ball and socket joints. Do you know where they're located? Well, if you're like any one of the thousands of people I've worked with during the last 5 years, you're probably saying, Dr. Esposito, I know where they are. They're about right over here. And the truth of the matter is, although we perceive them to be approximately at this region of the body, about waist level and on the perimeter frame, they actually are well below the waist and on the interior frame of the body, right about here. Now, these two joints in the body are critical joints. By the way, this bone in our leg, in our thigh, we have one major bone. It's a large bone. It's called the femur bone. And this femur comes up, angles in, and at the top of this bone is a rounded head which fits into a cavity that's located in the lower mid-region of the pelvic grid. There's a ball and socket joint on this side of our body, and as it turns out, there's a ball and socket joint on this side also. These two joints are critical joints in the body. We use them all the time. We walk, we run, we climb stairs, we sit down, we get up. We're constantly using these joints. The truth of the matter is, they work so perfectly, so harmoniously within us, that we don't really sense where they are. But these joints are very important to us in golf. In fact, they're so important to us that we can't play golf without them. Let us discuss the functional capacity of these joints because we need them with each and every swing we make. Ladies and gentlemen, these two joints define the precise location where the upper and lower skeletal muscular structure of the body connects. This is where our skeletal structure connects, and this is also where the major muscle structure of the body pertaining to the legs, the gluteus, the lower back, all of these major muscles connect right here at these joints. In addition, if you observe, my balance is evenly distributed at this point. But I can take the balance of my body, the center of mass, so to speak, and move it over right on this joint. How many times have you done this in your life? Well, you have the center of mass and your balance right at this joint. And similarly, I can take the center of mass, balance, and move it onto this joint. Interesting. These two joints happen to define a continuum through which we organize, mobilize, and stabilize the balance function of the body. This is quite interesting because most of us perceive that the balance function of the body is controlled in the feet. And as you can determine, I have not moved my feet at all, but I can move my balance to this joint, and now I can move my balance to the other joint. See, the balance mechanism in the body is controlled right here at the ball and socket joints in our hips. These joints have an additional capacity that is rather remarkable. I can put the balance function of the body on this joint, and I can rotate on this joint. Indeed, this joint is a pivot. And now I can put the balance function on this side of the body, and I can rotate on this joint. This joint is also a pivot. These two ball and sockets define the two power pivots of the human body. In fact, within the full scope of the golf swing, these two joints define the location of two power axes. This ball and socket joint on the right side of the body, this backswing pivot, defines the location of the backswing axis. This axis is known as the axis for power generation, and this axis serves as the center of rotation and bracing wall for the backswing. So when we consider what happens in the backswing, we discover that the shoulder girdle is rotating 30 degrees on the thoracic pivotal process of the swing, and the rest, the other 60 degrees, is actually occurring on the backswing pivot. The body, of course, in a complete backswing aligns perfectly with the axis for power generation. Now we move to the forward pivot of the body, this one. This pivot defines another axis. This axis operates independently of the first one. This is the axis for power release. And the axis for power release serves as the center of rotation and bracing wall for the complete forward swing in golf. So when we take a look at a person who really moves the ball, someone who can really hit it, whether that person is Jack Nicklaus, Curtis Strange, you, me, or anyone else, what the person is actually doing, whether or not we sense it, pivot, shifting the balance to the forward pivot and releasing the body on the forward axis. Within this framework, ladies and gentlemen, we can take every topic in golf, and integrate those topics within this basic model of the swing. Ball position, backswing plane, forward swing plane, every topic. For the moment, it is power that we are interested in, and the first topic within power that we will discuss pertains to the overall structure of the whip capacity of the body. The question is, where is the handle of the whip in the golf swing? As you know, a whip has two components. There are only two components in a whip. There is a handle and there is a rope. Again, the question is, where is the handle of the whip in the golf swing? When I ask this question of golf students, they generally answer as follows. The handle of the whip, and they get a golf club in their hands. They say, Dr. Esposito, the handle of the whip is right here. It's right here. And I say, no, we think it's here. They say, well, maybe it's here, right over here. And I say, no, it's not. And how about over? No. Ladies and gentlemen, the handle of the whip in the human body is right here at the pivots. This is the handle of the whip. And in fact, everything above the handle serves the function of rope. Now that we see this rather clearly, let us look at the upper level of this triangle. We have a pivot here, a pivot here, a pivot here. We know the handle is here. How about this upper pivot? What does it take care of? Well, obviously, the shoulder line of the body ties right into the pivotal frame of the thoracic. And of course, we can now see that the arms are purely an extension of the shoulders, and the wrists and hands, of course, are extensions therefrom. Our next topic pertains to the club in the hands. Where does the club belong in the hands? Let us take a look at our hand. As you can determine, everyone has a bone right here. And everyone has a bone right here. And if we take away the fingers and we take away the thumb, what we really have is a shape that you are all quite familiar with. In fact, it is a square. And the strongest line in a square is its diagonal. And when I take the diagonal and turn it to the horizontal position, it becomes an extension of the arm. And the arm, of course, becomes an extension of the shoulders, and the extension of the shoulders goes into the next arm. And if I go like this, again I have the diagonals lined up with the shoulders. The grip, therefore, is rather simple to see once we understand the internal anatomy of the hand. So, for example, I'll simply place the club in the fingers, put the heel on top, the heel of the hand on top, hold it up like this, and as we can determine, this club is going right through the diagonal, right through the arm, right through the shoulder line, right to the full extension of the other arm across the way. And when I have the grip in my hand correctly, when I grip the club correctly, that is, there are certain things I can do. I can raise the thumb, I can release the pinky, I can release the next finger, I can release the next finger, and lo and behold, the club is sitting where it belongs, straight across the diagonal of the hand, right through the arm, right through the shoulders, right across. And that determines the correct internal anatomy of the grip. And when we grip the club correctly, when we close our muscles on this grip, the correct muscles activate, and the club is truly a part of the hand. In golf, we believe, when we look at the grip, that the left-hand grip and the right-hand grip are somewhat different. And to some extent, that's true. However, when I place the club here in the fingers and tuck this pinky around, this valley that I have right here in my right hand fits over the thumb, and this is what the grip looks like. What about the internal anatomy of the right hand? Well, I guess it's in the same place, straight across the diagonal of the right hand. The point is, although the grip looks different with respect to the right and left hand, or the front arm and the back arm, when we examine the internal anatomy of the grip, it really is across the diagonal, and here too, it really is across the diagonal. Now that we see that, let us take up the second question, the second topic that pertains to power, and that has to do with ball position. Now in golf, for quite some time, there have been two competing schools of thought pertaining to ball position. One school might be described as the school of graduated length, and the second school might be described as the school of ball constancy. Let us examine what each of these schools of thought have to say about ball position. The school of graduated length tells us that when we have a driver in our hand, the driver being the longest club in the bag, the ball should be positioned just inside the forward heel, just like this. And as the clubs get shorter, the ball moves back in the stance. So the wedges would be played back here in the stance, the middle irons would be played in the middle of the stance, 5-iron or so, and the longest irons and woods would be played here forward in the stance, certainly inside the left heel, inside the forward heel. That's one school of thought, which of course helps us to see that this school of thought, the school of graduated length, believes that ball position can be understood with respect to the length of the club relative to the position of the feet. The longer the club, the more forward. The shorter the club, the more back. Second school of thought that's been with us for quite some time is the school of ball constancy. This school says, yes, that when we have the driver in our hand, the ball should be positioned inside the forward heel. But as the clubs get shorter, the ball remains in the same place. It doesn't matter what we have in our hands. It could be a driver, a 5-iron, a 3-iron, a sand wedge. That doesn't matter. The ball is always positioned relative to the forward heel, just inside the left heel, as you can see. I find it interesting, and I'm sure you do too, that although we've been playing golf for 500 or 600 years, we still to this day have competing schools of thought, competing ideas with regard to where the ball really belongs. Well, fortunately, the research work in recent years indicates that there is a third school of thought, the new school, so to speak. The body is equipped with a forward pivot right here. And this forward pivot happens to be the natural pivot in the body, which serves as the hitting pivot in the swing. And this hitting pivot defines the location of the axis for power release. Now, the axis for power release is the center of rotation and bracing wall for the downswing, and that, of course, would define the base of the downswing arc of the club when we are on the forward side hitting the ball. The ball must be associated with the ball and socket joint on the forward side of the body. And this is the rule for every club, every swing, every shot, every day, for the rest of our lives. And ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, there is no exception to the rule. In fact, I'm going to take a sand wedge and go right through the bag and demonstrate the accuracy of this perception, of this new theory of ball position. Following the demonstration, what I'd like to do is demonstrate some illusions about ball position. And I assure you, following this demonstration, you will never make a mistake about ball position again. Let's begin with the sand wedge, the shortest club in the bag. Well, here we have our sand wedge, and what am I going to do with it? Well, first I'm going to associate the ball with the ball and socket joint on the forward side of the body. Then I'm going to sit down and construct a foundation here at the pivots. And by the way, looking at it this way, I'm not going to be down in here in my knees so much. I'm going to take the balance function up of the body and put it up here at the joints, precisely where the balance function of the body is located. So there will be alignment, where here's the target line, and here is a perpendicular off the target line to the pivot. I'm going to set a foundation in the body such that the balance is up in the hips, and I'm going to start with the balance on the backswing pivot. So instead of being on the left, I'm going to put myself right here on the interior frame of the backswing pivot. The legs, of course, would be on the interior also. I'm not going to be this way. I'm going to be this way. If I have alignment, I have foundation. And now, of course, there's a third building block, which pertains to the swing triangle, this region of the body. All right? My shoulders right now, take a look at them. They're down. Right now, they appear to be a little different. They seem to be up and forward. Well, let me discuss this for you. Everyone has two bones right in here. They're called clavicles. These clavicles go right to the points of the shoulder. And in our back, we have scapula, and they too go to the points of the shoulder. This entire region, inclusive of the clavicles and the scapula, as a whole unit, is known as the shoulder girdle. And what I'm going to do with the shoulder girdle is position it up and forward, and then, of course, assume the correct grip, and my shoulders are now free to rotate on the thoracic. So we have three building blocks in the address. We have alignment, we have foundation, and we have a triangle. Following this, all we do is rotate the torso, open up, and hit the ball. At this juncture, allow me to call attention to the interior secret triangle, which serves as the vehicle through which the backswing is initiated. This triangle incorporates the upper arms and shoulders directly to the thoracic pivot of the golfer's body. As such, it is the upper arms of the golfer taken together which puts the golf swing in motion. This upper two-arm takeaway leaves the lower forearms, wrists, and hands free to rotate and hinge naturally during the course of the backswing. Within the biaxis model, therefore, No active use of the forearms, wrists, and hands is required. Let's go to another club, slightly longer in length, a 9-iron. And what am I going to do with the 9-iron? Well, let's set it up, ball and socket, sit down into a foundation, set the shoulder girdle, rotate the torso, move over and hit the ball. Let's go to a longer club, like a 7-iron. And here we are with our 7-iron. And all we're going to do is set it up, ball and socket, sit down, rotate the torso, move over and hit the ball. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, has anything changed yet? The ball still seems to be right here. The body has aligned itself basically the same way, and the swing seems to be virtually identical. In fact, nothing has changed other than the length of the club, which of course indicates that I should perhaps move a touch back from the ball, which is what I do. I said nothing has changed except the length of the club. Well, let's think about that. Why in the world should anything change? Will the power dynamic structure of the body change? No, the power dynamic structure of the body cannot change. Will the true principles of human power dynamics change? No, they can't change either. In fact, when we really come to understand the power dynamic structure of the body and the true principles that pertain to the structure, we discover that it really doesn't make any difference what I have in my hand. A golf club, long or short, tennis racket, baseball bat, or any other implement for that matter. So what I'm going to do is take the same power structure with the same principles and apply them all in the same way, even when I go to a longer club like a 5-iron. Here we are with our 5-iron. And of course, the relationship is ball and socket, sit down, rotate the torso, move over and hit the ball, and a 3-iron. It would be ball and socket, sit down, rotate the torso, hit the ball, and then we'll go to a 1-iron. And some people say a 1-iron. But wait a second, a 1-iron is a very difficult club to hit. In fact, Mr. Trevino has the classic joke about a 1-iron, and he points out that if you have a 1-iron in your hand and you're out there and it's a thunderstorm, even the good Lord can't hit one of these things. Well, I'm sure that Mr. Trevino can hit a 1-iron quite well. And with the now new understanding of the swing, does it really make any difference what I have in my hands? Of course not. A 1-iron, and of course, the relationship would be ball and socket, sit down, rotate the torso, move over and hit the ball. Well, that takes care of all of the irons, sand wedge to the 1-iron. What would happen when we go to a wood, like a driver? Will anything change? Of course not. So here we are with our driver, and the relationship would be ball and socket, sit down, rotate the torso, move over and hit the ball. And as you can see, nothing has changed. Ladies and gentlemen, I've presented this demonstration over 4,000 times in the last 5 years or so. And each and every time I present it, the students watching it say to me, "Well, Doc, that makes all the sense in the world." I say, "Do you understand this relationship that I'm demonstrating?" They say, "Of course I do. Of course I do." What you're saying, Doc, is this. You're saying, this is the natural pivot in the body. It's the hitting pivot in the swing, and this hitting pivot defines the location of the axis for power release. Now, the axis for power release is the center of rotation and bracing wall for the forward swing, and that, of course, would define the base of the downswing arc of the club when we are on the forward side hitting the ball. And I say that's quite correct. However, There is an illusion going on here, truly an illusion. And what I would like to do, ladies and gentlemen, is help you to see through the illusion so that you really understand the underlying relationship involved. And for this purpose, what I will do is hit one or two more shots for you. And if you happen to see anything that I do differently, I would like you to just call out and say, "Stop." Believe me, I will hear you. So here we are. And we'll just walk up to this shot, set up the same relationship, of course. Did I hear you say stop? Well, everyone who's ever seen this demonstration says stop. They say, "Doc, wait a second. Didn't you say that the ball belonged up here in a forward pivot of the body? This is the natural pivot, the axis for power release, the center of the..." I say, "Yes, I did." "Well, then what is this ball doing back here on your foot? It's in the back foot." I say, "Wait a second. You recall earlier we pointed out that the feet have nothing to do with ball position, and certainly the length of the club has nothing to do with ball position. So what is going on here?" Well, when I hit all those shots before with the clubs from the sandwich to the driver, there was an underlying relationship which involved the ball, the hands, and the pivot. You see, ladies and gentlemen, 2 points determine a straight line. The ball is 1 point, and this pivot is a second. And when you connect these 2 points, and you place your arms, your hands, right on this line, ball, hands, ball, and socket, what we've actually done is taken the ball and integrated it within the lower part of the triangle, and by putting the hands up here, we've integrated the entire shoulder girdle correctly within the framework for the axis for power release. So what we saw before was this. Ball, hands, ball, and socket, sit into a foundation, rotate the torso, hit the ball. And then we walk up to this shot that seems to be, looks to be, appears to be quite different. But in fact, we're going to set it up ball, hands, ball, and socket. From the ball to the pivot is a straight line. The hand goes right on the line, and we proceed. Ball, hands, ball, and socket. Sit down, rotate the torso, hit the ball. And for the next shot, all of my students say to me, "But Dom, isn't this ball forward in your body? Isn't it outside your body?" I say, "No, it just appears to be." What I really have to do is take the ball and integrate the ball within the power structure of the body. And for this purpose, from the ball to the pivot is a straight line. Of course, it would be ball, hands, ball, and socket. Sit down, rotate the torso, the ball. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know this may seem a bit strange. Certainly, when I first discovered this relationship, I was very surprised. And I tested it, both with myself and with 4,000 plus other people. And lo and behold, it holds up time after time after time, shot after shot. It doesn't matter what you have in your hands. It just works like a dream. In fact, when we really understand the underlying relationship concerning ball position, we can do some things that are rather amazing today, rather amazing considering our history in golf, but not so amazing when we understand the 3-pivot structure behind the golf swing. So here we have 3 balls located in very different positions. They are located front to back and near to far. I'm going to play these 3 shots without moving my feet, without changing the club, just to illustrate the underlying relationship that's involved. Here we have ball, hands, ball, and socket. This would be ball, hands, ball, and socket. And this would be ball, hands, ball, and socket. So it would be ball, hands, ball, and socket. Sit into a foundation, rotate, hit the shot. And here we have ball, hands, ball, and socket. Sit into a foundation, rotate, hit the shot. And here we have ball, hands, ball, and socket. Sit down, rotate, and hit the shot. Rather amazing, I would say. But then again, there's an underlying science here. And it's the science that hit the shot, not just me. Now that we've examined some of the major underlying relationships in the swing, let us take a look at some of the major mechanics which actually make the swing work. For this purpose, our basic framework, the three building blocks, alignment, foundation, and triangle, certainly hold up. And what we are doing in the backswing, as we indicated much earlier in our presentation, during the backswing, we are winding the body on the first pivot and on the first axis. To initiate the forward swing, we need a shift of pivot, not simply a shift of weight. This would be a shift of weight, but a shift of pivot, where the body rotates onto the axis for power release. Now this, of course, leads us to what is clearly one of the most difficult questions in golf, and that is, how does the downswing get started? What is it that releases the body and club? What is it that triggers the release of the body and club on and through the ball? Now, there have been many, many answers to this all-important question. One of the answers that we've heard is move the hips laterally. Another answer we've heard is move the knees laterally. Another answer we've heard is rotate the right foot. Another answer we've heard is plant the left heel to initiate the forward swing. Certainly, Mr. Hogan told us to turn the hips. And what we'd like to do is integrate that idea with some other findings that we've discovered along the way and see if we cannot come up with a simple way of understanding the release of the body and club on through the shot. Essentially, how do we begin the downswing? The simplest way I've come up with to explain it to others who play golf is this. During the course of the backswing, the body is winding on this back pivot. And this forward hip closes. It just naturally closes on the backswing. What we need to do is somehow open up this hip so that the back hip can get through. So if you visualize this as a door, I'm just going to open the door and walk right through it. Literally. Open the door and walk right through it. Now the muscles that open this door are located right here. This major, major group of muscles on the interior forward thigh. Balances here, open and walk through. As simple as that. This is quite different from what is ordinarily perceived to be the mechanism through which the downswing is released. The balance is here on the backswing, and I think everyone who plays golf agrees that on the backswing, the balance is back here on this backswing pivot. We can move this balance forward basically one of two ways. We can push off the backside, push off the back, which will lead to block shots all day long. What we can do is open up the front and let the back go through, which is precisely what we want to do. So if you draw your attention to this region of my body on the next swing or two, I think you'll get an idea of precisely what is initiating the forward release. It's really quite simple once we understand that we're opening the front so the back can go through. Now there's a little complication in the forward release of the swing that I want to draw your attention to. This back hip could move around as it moves forward, or it could move straight through. And it is straight through that we are interested in. So here we are in the backswing. We're going to open the front and go straight through. In this concluding segment, what I'd like to do is raise our level of conversation about the golf swing to its highest level of understanding. Essentially, we've already identified that the human body is a power system capable of two types of physical force. We have bulk force, in which we use the size, the strength, and the weight of our muscles. And we have ballistic force, in which the body generates and converts into the dynamic action of a natural whip. Now, with respect to the conversion process, we've identified 3 power pivots. 1, 2, 3. We've also identified 2 power axes. One for the purpose of structuring and supporting the backswing, and a second via a pivotal shift to structure and support the complete action of the forward release on and through the ball. Essentially, then, the golf swing is not one swing which operates on one central pivot and axis like so, but 2 swings, not simply because there is a backswing segment and a forward swing segment, but because the backswing segment is structured by its own pivot and axis. This is the first swing in golf. And then the forward swing is structured by its own pivot and axis. The forward swing in golf. Essentially, we have 2 swings unified by a pivotal shift in which we open and go. In addition, we can examine the golf swing and the natural action of the body within the framework of a torsion leverage system of power. In the backswing, we are establishing the torsion capacity of the body within the framework of the backswing pivot and axis, and we are also establishing the leverage capacity of the body such that this region, which is the primary lever of the swing, and this region, which is the secondary lever in the swing, along with this region, which is the third power lever in the swing, and this one, which is the assistive lever for the third, are combined with the 4th lever from the wrist on down to the end of the club. So what we have is a 4-lever system which is being fueled by the torsion capacity of the body. So here we are in our torsion relationship with the 4th lever on top of the 3rd lever, adjacent to the 2nd lever on top of the 1st lever. Then via a pivotal shift, which opens and goes, we are releasing the 1st, the 2nd follows, the 3rd comes out, and the 4th goes right on through the ball. We now come to a time in this video when it is productive to examine the golf swing from the rear perspective. For this purpose, allow me to introduce the Golf Window, a new teaching and learning device developed as a result of bi-axis swing research. This special configuration is anatomically derived and permits us to see, diagnose, and correct swing flaws. As the viewer can readily determine, even at this early stage of presentation, proper use of the window is a potential powerhouse for accelerating personal improvement in golf. Today, both as a research tool and as a consistent guide to help strengthen my own swing. By way of preface to the window, allow me to emphasize that the swing relationships you are about to see are inherent in the natural dynamic structure of the human body, and any attempt to contrive or achieve these relationships artificially will simply prove to fail. Following the complete demonstration of the window, this video will close by providing you with information about how you may obtain technical information and other videos about the bi-axis swing, so that you may begin to put the window to complete personal use. For the moment, let us examine the swing through the window and see how it helps us to appreciate and understand more clearly the underlying natural reality that is characteristic of the bi-axis swing. For example, to initiate the bi-axis golf swing, allow me to recommend the following. First, establish a posture at address such that a right angle integrates the ball and club correctly within the power structure of the body as a whole. Next, check to be sure that the entire swing triangle is positioned correctly. The shoulders are elevated forward and the arms are hanging in a triangular relationship in front of the chest. The elbows, both of them, are rotated under toward the body, while the wrists and hands rotate toward each other and assume the correct grip. Observing yourself in a mirror, it would appear that you are sitting back on your legs with the balance positioned on the inside right. When the hips and shoulders are angled correctly, you will notice that the thoracic pivot of the swing is above and basically in line with the position of the backswing, pivot, and axis for power generation. In overall appearance, the body is pitched forward toward its objective and fully prepared to initiate a takeaway that is based on the swinging action of both upper arms and shoulders. Instantly, the shoulder girdle goes into gear and rotates about the thoracic pivot of the body. Next, in split-second sequence, both forearms, wrists, and hands move, rotate, and open the club face as the takeaway proceeds. Allow me to identify that in response to the swinging action of the upper two-arm takeaway, the upper region of the left arm will rotate naturally, while the upper region of the right simply retains its original relationship as the arm folds comfortably at the elbow. As is apparent in the window, the dynamic wind of the backswing is anatomically geared and may be relied on to repeat consistently all the way to the top of the swing. In actuality, this gear effect is composed of 4 interrelating stages. These stages are: 1, the upper two-arm takeaway, which rotates the shoulder girdle about the thoracic pivot of the body. 2, the rotation and interaction of the upper arms, which positions the swing correctly onto the backswing plane. 3, the continuing wind of the entire body around the backswing pivot and axis for power generation. And 4, the hinging of the wrists, which completes naturally at the top of the swing. In this regard, and as a practical diagnostic and teaching tool, the golf window brings into focus an observation worthy of special consideration. That is, while it is apparent to all players of the game that there are individual styles of swing and personal mannerisms which all of us bring to the swing, there is in fact an underlying perpendicular interdependence which interrelates both the backswing and downswing within the bi-axis model. This principle of unification integrates the arc, plane, and body of the golfer throughout the course of the swing. As dramatic evidence of this underlying principle of unification, observe the perpendicular relationship of the ball to the body at address, the perpendicular relationship of the body to the club while the golfer is at a point midway in the backswing, and the relationship of the entire upper body as it reaches the top of the swing and realigns to achieve another perpendicular. As the golfer puts the downswing into motion, this same principle of unification reappears in a fashion that is equally visible. Let's take a look. To initiate the forward swing, the golfer performs a pivotal shift by using the muscles associated with the left hip and leg to rotate the left hip. This turning action of the hip automatically returns the club to the top of the hitting area. As indicated earlier, this turning action might be described as opening a door or a turning forward of the left hip, which in continuous motion is followed by the right hip proceeding straight and parallel down the intended line of flight. Allow me to emphasize that it is the turning action of the left hip forward that shifts the weight and makes it possible for the right hip to turn and proceed straight and parallel on and through the ball. As the essential transition to the forward swing, the pivotal shift is worth understanding and practicing until you have it down to its elegant simplicity. Thinking in terms of having the left foot down and in position during the complete course of the backswing will greatly facilitate rapid success in achieving a pivotal shift that will repeat consistently time and time again. Proceeding forward, impact will occur naturally on and through the shot without any muscular injection or manipulation of the upper body swing triangle. The upper body offers no resistance or interference whatsoever, and the club is brought through the shot naturally. In short, the hips and legs, and not the hands, are moving the golfer so that the body can rotate fully on and around the axis for power release. All the work is coming from the handle of the whip in the golfer's hips, while the shoulders, arms, wrists, and hands serve their basic function as transmitters of energy. As the ball is propelled into flight, the golfer proceeds naturally into a classic follow-through. The finish is high, and the true majesty of the swing emerges right before our eyes and on through to a complete finish. The golfer feels no aches or pains, no pushes or pulls, no hooks and no slices. Every element in the golfer's body has worked in perfect harmony, and the golfer is left gazing in admiration of what could very well be the shot of the day. As the viewer can readily determine, this video represents a whole new world of understanding and comes with a new package of material which, as a total unit, represents a complete reappraisal of our basic beliefs about the swing. Today we have examined the question of power and have determined how the body actually generates and converts its energy into that of a dynamic natural whip. Our next video comes with a photo album of the golf window and demonstrates how it can be designed to fit your body correctly. In logical progression, we shall then take up the important skills of direction and ball flight control, dynamics for a reliable short game, and putting, the art and science for consistent performance. In all of these important areas of skill, I'm sure you will discover, as I have, that the bi-axis model offers insights that make sense. This is Dr. Esposito encouraging you to improve your skill and love golf. It is surely one of the greatest games in the world today, and it even gets better once we understand how to use the body correctly.
Golf window. How to diagnose and improve your swing. Bi-axis golf swing. Dynamics of direction and ball flight control. Principles of the bi-axis short game. Principles of putting, the art and science for consistent performance.